Okay, fantastic. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Business Acquisition Fast Track program. We have got 5 sessions together over the next 5 days. It is going to be lots of fun. I want you to enjoy the next 5 days. Buying businesses is enjoyable. Buying businesses should never be stressful. It should always be fun. So what I'm going to be showing you this week is what actually works right now in real life, what I'm doing right now. I've made 26 acquisitions since April last year. So in the last 12 months, we've had, is it 3 lockdowns in the UK and stay at home orders and all sorts of challenges around meeting people. And everyone was saying to me, how can you do a deal during a pandemic? Well, I've done 26 of them. So there is an opportunity there to speed up your acquisitions. And if you want to buy a business, you're now entering the business buying market at a very, very, very good time indeed, because um, because the economic cycle that we're in right now favors the buyer. It's not great for the seller, but it favors the buyer. So your timing being here right now this week and presumably getting going after this week is absolutely fantastic. And I am going to be doing everything I can to help you this week to be successful. So I will share with you what works, and I will also share with you what doesn't work. So I will tell you the things to avoid. I'll tell you the mistakes that I've made. I'm very open with you. Later in the week, I will go through some case studies of some acquisitions that I have done during lockdown, and I'll tell you the ones that worked and the ones that didn't work so well and what we did about it to turn it around. So I'll give you the whole process, and you are very welcome to ask me as many questions as you want and as we have time for each day. And I'll tell you in a moment how we deal with that. But let's talk about the agenda for the week. So this is what we're going to be doing. On Monday, we're going to talk about which is today. We're going to talk about your acquisition strategy and finding the right business to buy. Okay, we need to go out and find businesses to buy, otherwise nothing else can happen. So we're getting a lot of the groundwork in place today. And then tomorrow, we're going to talk to the owner of the business and we're going to negotiate the deal to get the very best price, which I think is a pretty good thing to do, right? And we typically get a 66% discount on average across all the businesses and across all the acquisitions. Let me just explain what that means. So, whatever someone first wants for the business, we end up paying just 33%. So we get a 66% discount. So I'll show you exactly what we do and how we do it. It isn't rocket science. I will take you through the process so you can just take that process, copy it, and use it yourself. And then I'm going to show you on Wednesday, we've got some technical stuff on Wednesday, how to get your acquisition and corporate structure right. So how to use a holding company and SPVs, how to choose between buying shares and buying assets. And also I'm going to show you 8 ways to buy a business without using your own cash. Now, this is sometimes the main reason people join this program, just for this one session. What I would stress, though, is that all these sessions dovetail into each other and shouldn't really be taken in isolation. You should see it as a big picture rather than just sections. On Thursday, we're going to talk about heads of terms. We're going to talk about due diligence, and we're going to talk about buying a business from the administrators. Now, every country, and we can see we've got lots of countries represented this week, is going to have some differences around this area, but effectively it's a business that's got into trouble, and how do we buy that business, but without buying the trouble? Okay, just buy the good stuff without the trouble. And then on Friday, taking over the business, dealing with staff, your deal team. We get a lot of questions about deal team, but we're going to save those all to Friday. Okay. We're just doing deal team on Friday, and the buy and build strategy. What is the buy and build strategy? The buy and build strategy is where you buy several businesses to build a larger business that you can then sell for a very decent sum of money. Now, this is a strategy that I would suggest that at least 50% of my private clients go on to do. Okay. So the reason I'm teaching it to you today and also on Friday is because today I'm going to give you the basic outline and the principle. On Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to show you how you can do it. And then on Friday, I'll give you the advanced version. So we'll be covering the buy and build strategy today and also on Friday. Now, even though that's only one screen of PowerPoint in front of you, this week is a packed week. It is absolutely chocker. There's no padding. Okay, this is absolutely packed with content. So the outcomes for this week is to get you more knowledgeable and to build your confidence. And I think it's all very well having lots of knowledge, but if you don't have the confidence to do it, what's the point? But likewise, if you're confident but don't have any knowledge, then it's all bluff and bluster. So what we need to do is combine knowledge and confidence. And I'm going to give you a framework for buying a business, a model, if you like, a business buying model. And it's a business buying model that works. Now, I strongly suggest that you follow the model. And I would strongly suggest that you do exactly the way I teach you how to do it, at the very least on your first acquisition. And then when your own knowledge and confidence is growing and growing and you're learning from experience, then you can tweak the model to adjust it to your circumstances or the outcomes that you want. But initially, follow the process, do exactly the way I teach you how to do it, just follow it step by step, and you'll find that it works. And I'm also going to help you this week to make those first steps. So I'm going to be encouraging you to do things from next Monday onwards. So we do a week of training, and then from next week, you need to jump into action. Okay. So I'm going to help you make those first steps so that you know what to do first, second, third, and fourth. So how do you get the best out of our time together this week? Very important. We do the training and we do questions. Now, the questions are an important part of the training because my answers explain things that we talked about in the training in more detail. The questions that people ask typically come at things in different angles, and quite often they are the things that lots of people are thinking. So the questions and my answers are a really important part of the training. So don't dip off after the first 60 minutes, stay online for the entire 90 minutes. You should be taking notes. You should be writing down the things that come to your mind, the things that you think of. You should be writing down what pops into your head as a good idea, because ideas can be lost very, very quickly. So write down those good ideas. Save your questions to the end. Okay, save your questions to the end, because I cannot answer your questions while I'm doing the training, because it will just take us off track. So let's do all the questions at the end. And then I want you to start setting your goals for the next 6 months. Why 6 months? 6 months is a very reasonable amount of time for you to go and buy a business. So 6 months starting Monday is a very, very reasonable time to go and get your first acquisition under your belt. So 6 months, very, very important to have that time frame in mind. So where are we now? We are coming up towards the end of April. So if you get started on Monday, you will have your first business acquired May, June, July, August, September, October, by the end of October. Some people do it a lot faster. They do it in a matter of weeks, and they're the people who just get on with it on Monday morning, follow my process, don't deviate from the process. Some people take a little longer to get started because they spend 3 months thinking about it. And they say, yeah, it's a 6-month plan, but I spend the first 3 months thinking about it. No, you need to get going quickly. The faster you get going, the faster you'll get the results. And I guess you're only on here to get results. You're not just here for the experience and to listen to my voice all week. But remember, this is the format every day this week: 60 minutes of training and 30 minutes of questions. And if you need help with anything, then email Maria and hello@thedealmakersacademy.com. Hello@thedealmakersacademy.com. On Friday afternoon, we're going to send you all the slides from the week. Okay, so please listen up because I sometimes find myself repeating this multiple times. I just want to make sure everyone's got this. On Friday afternoon, we send you all the slides from the week. So we just send those all to you. This afternoon, we're going to send you a link to a private YouTube playlist. And on that playlist will be one video, which will be today, a video of today's live session. And then when you check back tomorrow afternoon, it will have Tuesdays. Check back on Wednesday, we have Wednesdays as well. So by the end of the week, you'll have all 5 sessions on that, but you need just one link for all 5. And that is your link, and that's not going to be taken away from you. And those videos are there forever for you to watch as many times as you want, forever. Okay, so and I'm saying this right up front because sometimes I have like 10, 20 questions from people saying, when do I get the video? When do I get the video? And I'm just want to say it once, so it allows us more time for questions about business buying rather than questions about when do I get the video. So there you go. And actually, I'm really flattered that people do want the videos because quite clearly, if you want the videos, the content was strong. So that's our format for every session this week. And then remarkably, even though we haven't even started this week, people say, what happens at the end? What happens after this week? Can we do anything else after this week? Well, you don't have to do anything else, but those people who want to, I have got some intermediate, advanced, and VIP programs, but I'll tell you about those on Wednesday after the training. I don't want that to distract from the reason why we are here this week, but I know many of you will not want to stop on Friday. You'll want to continue with me in some way, and I'll tell you how to do that on Wednesday after the training. So today, we're going to discover what type of business to buy, where to find those businesses and how to approach them, and also an introduction to the buy and build strategy. Now, there are 4 things to remember. Now, you may have heard me say this before, but you may not have done. So I'm going to reiterate it now because it's really, really important that you remember these 4 things. I don't care what your personal finances are right now. They do not prevent you from buying a business. So if you're thinking, I don't really have much money right now, but I want to buy a business, is it possible? Yes, it is. And by the end of this week, you'll be going, right, I get it now. You do not run the business yourself. Very, very important. I currently own 31 businesses all around the UK, many of them in the north of England. So 3.5 hour, 4 hour drive from where I live. And each of them has a manager. Each of them has a deputy. The managers report to what we call senior managers. I do not run those businesses myself. I'm not qualified to do so. They're all in the childcare sector. But they could all be IT businesses, or they could be all digital marketing businesses, or they could be all domiciliary care businesses. They could be all care home. It doesn't matter what the business is. You do not run it yourself. I say this for the people who don't yet own a business. Quite often I get questions from people saying, so do I pay myself a salary? How much money can I pay myself? Look, all the profit the business makes is yours. So if the business makes £100,000 profit, it's yours. If the business makes £500,000 profit, it's yours. If the business makes £1 million profit, it is yours. It's all yours. And also, there need not be any personal risk. So I want you to settle down any trepidation you might have about, what if I buy a business and it goes wrong? Is there risk? No, don't worry about that, because if you do it the way I'm teaching you, there need not be any personal risk. So let's get some terminology right up front, because if we're going to be doing this together, I want to be able to use the professional terminology, but I want you to understand it. I don't want you to think that I'm just using jargon for the sake of it. So let's learn some phrases and let's use the same phrases throughout. And then when you ask me questions, you can incorporate these phrases into the questions. And that's good. You know something, there's nothing that looks more amateurish than someone who wants to buy a business and just uses the wrong terminology. And immediately people can spot a mile off that you are a beginner. And we don't want that to be the case. So the first phrase is consideration. The consideration is what we pay for the business. So we have so you'd say in conversation, so the consideration was, or what was the consideration on that deal. And consideration can be split into two parts. It can be split into the initial consideration. So this is the initial consideration, which is our the payment that would be made on on completion, legal completion. So we pay that on completion day, and then we have our deferred consideration, which is typically the balance of the consideration, the bit that's not yet paid, that's then deferred over a period of time. That's deferred over quite often a number of years. Now, I'll be telling you how to deal with that, teaching you how to do it. I'm just giving you the terminology at the moment. And then we have a share purchase. A share purchase is where we buy the shares in the business. We buy the company itself. Now, there are pros and cons of doing that. I'll share those with you as we go through the week. And then we have an asset purchase where we buy the business, but we don't buy the company. We just buy the business out of the company. That is my preferred way of doing things, especially with smaller acquisitions. It's a lot simpler and so forth. I'll teach you more about that as we go through the week. And then we have phrase number 6 is a special purpose vehicle. So a special purpose vehicle, an SPV. And this is a company that you set up for the sole purpose of buying the business. Okay, whether it's the shares or whether the assets, it's set up with the sole purpose of doing this. In other words, you don't buy the business in your own name, you don't use your existing business to buy the business, and so forth. Number 7 is holding company. So a holding company is not trading in and of itself. It holds your SPVs that have made your acquisitions. Now, you may think, oh my goodness, Jonathan, we're jumping way ahead here. I describe all this in great detail during the course of the week. HOT's heads of terms. So heads of terms is the pre-contract to the main contract. And it really just outlines, this is the business that we're buying. This is who's going to buy it. This is what we're going to pay for it. And these are the terms. This is how we're going to pay for it with any special conditions. I will teach you exactly how to get heads of terms signed this week. Number 9 is a pre-pack administration. We'll be talking about this later in the week. A pre-pack administration is where the company that we're interested in buying has debts, and the debts are more than the value of the assets. So it is insolvent. So what we need to do then, if we want to buy this business, we can put it through what's called a pre-pack administration. Now, different countries are going to have different phrases for this, but in the UK, it's called a pre-pack administration. And you may have heard lots of large companies doing this. Especially during the last 12 months, they're in the news a lot when this happens, and it allows you to buy the bits that you want and leave behind the bits that you don't want. And then number 10 is due diligence. This is the checking that your accountant and solicitor typically do to make sure that the company is everything that you think it is. And that allows you to proceed with the deal with confidence. So there are 10 phrases that you need to know. I would suggest, I realize that you're going to get the slides. I realize that you are going to get all the recordings, but I would suggest that you just get your phone out right now and take a quick photograph of the screen there just for your reference. So I'll just pause for a moment, let you take a quick photo of that. Let me sip my coffee at the same time. Just give you 15 seconds to grab your phone and do that. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Now, here's a very important thing. You do not need to become an accountancy or a legal expert to buy a business successfully, because 80% of the hard work is done by other people. Your focus is on finding a business to buy and closing a deal. So I'm not going to be teaching you this week how to be an accountant, because That's what accountants do. And I think an accountancy course in the UK is something like 7 years. I'm not going to teach you how to be a lawyer this week. I'm going to teach you what I know and what I do and what works. But I don't want you to think for one moment that I'm qualified. I'm a qualified lawyer. I'm not. I'm not a qualified accountant. I'm not. But you don't need to be to be a business buyer. What you need to be doing is focusing on finding the businesses to buy and closing the deal. I've got 31 at this very moment. Over the next 2 weeks, I've got 6 more deals completing, bringing it up to 37. Now, did I do the legal work? No. Did I do the accounting work? No. We just found the businesses to buy and closed the deal. Now, you make money from business acquisition in 3 ways. So this is our first sort of, this is a sit up and pay attention point. When you buy the business, that's the first way you can make money. When you buy the business, and you might think, hang on, how is that possible? How do you make money when you buy a business? Sure, you spend money when you buy a business. No, you can make money when you buy a business. Over the last couple of months alone, I have several examples from my own acquisitions where on completion, the seller of the business paid me money. All right, so let's just say that again. So on completion, on the legal transference of ownership from the seller to me, the money did not flow from me to them; it flowed from them to me. And a lot of the businesses that we buy are small businesses. They're SMEs. So sometimes it's like £20,000, sometimes it's £30,000. It can be a little bit more, it can be a little bit less. It all kind of depends on the deal. But you can make money when you buy the business. If you were logged on early today, you may have heard me chatting with people where I described how one of my clients, he's on the advanced program, where he has last week completed on 3 acquisitions. In fact, I'll find the message in our LinkedIn group and read it out to you later. He got 3 acquisitions, and he said they're small businesses, but he was immediately able to take £8,000 out of those businesses and use that to pay for a holiday in Barbados for him and his family. Okay, so he made money when he bought the business that he could immediately turn into a holiday, which is kind of nice. You also make money when you own the business. So when you own the business, you make money. That's the profit that the business generates. And by the way, you can use that profit to buy other businesses. So you can buy one business, and the money that that business produces buys the second buys the third buys the fourth, and so forth. And of course, you make money when you sell the business. So I've had 2 multi-million-pound exits where I've sold, and I've done very well from those. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that the payday, if you like, when you sell the business can be absolutely superb. So your light bulb moment number 1 should be, you can make money when you buy a business, not just when you own it or sell it. And I have some private clients who are only looking to buy businesses where they know they can make money on completion. And I think that is pretty cool. Okay, so we'll come back to that later in the Q&A if you'd like me to. So let's talk about this buy and build strategy that I've been hinting at since the start of the session today, because I want you to get your head around some really important concepts. And I am very aware that sometimes these concepts you need to hear several times over before they really sink in. So I'm really happy to answer questions about this later on. As I said to you right at the start, I want you to get a lot of value from this week. And the more you interact with me, the more value you will receive. So the easiest way to create a big business that's worth a lot of money is to combine several small businesses. Now, this goes against some accepted wisdom where you work for 10, 20, 30 years, you build the business up over time, you burn the midnight oil, you work 6 days a week, all of those things that people typically think if you want a big business, you've just got to put in the long hours and the decades of hard work. Alternatively, you can build a big business by combining several small businesses. So just relating it back to what I'm doing now, which is a buy and build in the early years childcare sector, by combining 31 small businesses, I am now the largest, the 13th largest childcare provider in the UK in just 20 months. The 13th largest provider of childcare in the UK in 13 months. Uh, so no decades of hard work. Yeah, no sort of 12-hour days for 20 years. But all I did was combine several small businesses. Now, let's look at this a little bit more depth. A large business is worth more than a small business because it's got proven scale and performance, and as such is lower risk to an acquirer. So big businesses are always valued a lot higher than smaller businesses. And one of the methods that people use to value a business is to take the profit that the business makes, multiply it by a number, and that number is called the multiple, and then we reach a valuation. So if you're selling a small business, your valuation multiple is a small number. If you're selling a large business, your valuation multiple is a larger number because of what you can see there on your screen, because it has proven scale and proven performance. Now, here's the thing. We can buy small businesses for low amounts of money, and we can sell large businesses for high amounts. So let's just think about this. We can buy small businesses for low amounts, and we can sell large businesses for high amounts. So for example, we could buy a small business for a multiple of three times annual profits, but we can sell a large business for maybe more than 8 times annual profits. All right. Now, what's the difference for that small business between when you buy it and when you sell it? The difference is that small business has been put together with other small businesses to create the large business. Maybe nothing else has changed. So a business we can buy for 3 times annual profits is immediately worth 8 times annual profits when put into our group because it benefits from group scale. So let me just give you an example here. So a business that is making £100,000 profit a year, we might buy for 3 times 100, 300,000. Now, don't worry. You're thinking right now, I haven't got £300,000, Jonathan. You're leaving me out. It's not possible. No, you don't need £300,000 to buy a business for £300,000. I mean, that's the part of what we're doing this week, isn't it? But as soon as you put that business into your group, it's now worth £800,000. Now, in my particular sector, the exit multiple is 10. So if I'm buying £100,000 of profit for 300,000, the moment that I buy that business, that £100,000 of profit is actually worth £1 million to me. So I've made £700,000 profit just by buying the business for 3 times and putting it into the group. So in this example, with 3 times and 8 times, you've actually made £500,000 just by buying the business and putting it into the group. Now, that should be your motivation for saying, Jonathan, how many of these small businesses can I buy? Because the more I buy, the more I make. Exactly. The more you buy, the more you make. Now, maybe you've got a business at the moment and your business is classified as a small business. Well, you want to make it into a big business as quickly as possible. So go and buy some similar businesses, some complementary businesses, some competitors, put them into your group, and your group can just be all these businesses merged together. And as a result, you've now got yourself a larger business worth a lot more money. When you see this principle and understand this principle, you'll wonder why people spend 20 years trying to build a business when all they have to do is go out and buy several small businesses in order to build it. It just doesn't make sense. Now, with all of my acquisitions recently, when they're running the way we want them to run, they'll be doing about 15 million of revenue with 3 million of profit, worth 10x worth 30 million. And I can assure you that I didn't pay 30 million for them. In fact, on Friday, I'll take you through some of the pricing and you can see exactly how much I paid for them. So the goal of the buy and build strategy is to buy a collection of small businesses at a low price. I'm really driving the point home here, I know, but I want you to understand it, and combine them to create a large business worth a high price. Because if we can do that, oh my goodness, happy days. You see, if we were to simplify the goal here, I would imagine that what most of you want to do is to make some decent money out of business, but you don't want to spend 10 or 20 years doing it. I've just presented you with the formula of how to do it. I've just shown you that all you have to do is go and buy some small businesses, combine them, and sell them. There you go. Look, you don't have to run the businesses. Someone else is going to run them for you. You don't have to get involved with the paperwork. Someone does that for you. You don't have to get involved with the bookkeeping. Someone else does that for you. All the hassly bits of business that we get dragged down into the detail of that hold us back, other people do. And as a result of all of that, you can get other people do it and you just figure out how to buy more businesses. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, exactly how to structure it across the course of the week. Now, what I hope is when you hear me say this, you're going, oh yeah, this is good. This is exciting. This is why I'm here. This is what I want to do, because that is really why we're here, isn't it? So this week, you're going to learn how to identify the right businesses to buy, how to negotiate the deal to get the price as low as possible, how to fund the deal without using your own money, and how to take over the business and merge it into your group. So I'm going to give you all the tools that you need this week in order to do this. And this is just one strategy, of course, that you're going to learn in the program. But on Friday, you're going to discover an advanced version of the model. I'm going to show you an advanced buy and build model so that you can take what you've learned during the week and apply it to this more advanced model, which will, to put it bluntly, make you more money than what I've just given you. Okay. So I really need you to be on these sessions as much as possible. I know some of you are going to miss parts and everything, but please try your best to be here. Clear your diary, close your door, do your very best to be here. So light bulb moment number 2 is buying businesses few people are interested in can be the path to great success. Now, what does this mean? Well, there are lots of businesses where the seller or the owner wants to sell, but there isn't really very much interest in the business for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's seen better days. It's not shiny, bright, new, and exciting. It looks a little bit dull, a little bit boring. And therefore, as a result, not many people are interested in buying it. They haven't got a queue of people at the door wanting to buy it. Those are the deals that I think you should be looking for. You do not want to be going after the shiny, exciting tech business where the sellers are 22 years old and all want to be billionaires. I mean, that sort of deal, there's lots of competition for it. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about buying businesses that can create cash flow for you. Very important. So you've got cash flow every single month that maybe have been overlooked by other people, and combining them creates our bigger business that we can then sell. So how do we decide which type of business to buy? And I've got to say, this is a conversation that I have with people an awful lot. Even people who've been on my programs for a couple of months still keep coming back to this, what type of business to buy. And it's actually quite a straightforward process. And I think sometimes people overcomplicate it, and they don't need to overcomplicate it. So let me just give you the very straightforward version here. If possible, buy a business in a sector you already understand. Okay, because if you think about it, why would you buy a business in a sector that you don't understand? Like, I don't understand anything to do with technology. It would be absolutely bizarre of me to buy a business in technology, because I'd look at what the company does and I go, I don't know, is this good or not? I've got no idea. Is it any good? So avoid things you don't understand. Alternatively, if you don't understand anything, and sometimes people say, Jonathan, I don't understand anything. I don't get anything. I just don't understand anything. Find someone who does. So again, just using and I will be referring to what I do and what I've done a lot, because I think experience is always interesting to hear other people's experiences, and I can tell you my own thought processes. So when I decided to get into the childcare sector, and I'd previously sold businesses in publishing, in digital marketing, and in adult education, adult accredited education. The childcare sector was new to me, and I kind of stumbled across it because I had a daughter who was of nursery age, and going to all the nurseries in Southwest London, I discovered there was a great variance in the feel and everything. And I started looking online, and I started researching, and I put something on LinkedIn about interested in buying a childcare business, and one connection led to another connection, and then I found someone who knew way more about it than I did. So I went and sat with her every few weeks, bought her lots of coffees, and tried to understand from her how this business worked. And then I teamed up with someone. You'll see her on my videos, Linda, who's been in the sector for a long time, and therefore I'm leveraging someone else's knowledge and experience, because otherwise, if you only limit to your own, I wouldn't have been able to enter this sector like I have done. Now, I do think that sometimes people get too hung up about deciding which type of business to buy. So a little bit later this morning, I'm going to give you a strategy for allowing businesses to come to you rather than you sitting there at home looking at a blank sheet of paper and trying to figure out which type of business to buy. Okay. But it's very important. Oh, alternatively, of course, choose a sector you can learn quickly. So I've got a client who's just buying in commercial cleaning, because quite frankly, how much do you need to learn about commercial cleaning? It's not rocket science. Okay, we can get our head around a commercial cleaning business really quickly. So there are lots of businesses that are actually very, very simple business models where the customer buys a product or service, the product or service is provided, and it's just very, very straightforward to learn. Now, here is an important point. You are not looking for a distressed business. You are not looking for a business that's losing money. That's really, really important. Now, I say not necessarily, but I don't think it should be your first acquisition. A business that's losing money is a tough business to buy unless you have some money to put into the business and you're prepared for the length of time it takes to turn it around. Okay. So what you've got to do is you've got to find a business that has a distressed owner. And there is a huge difference. Distressed business, distressed owner. So we're looking for an owner who wants to sell and wants to sell to a timetable. We're not looking for a business that is on its needs. Now, later, after you've got your first or second acquisition under your belt, then maybe actually at that point, a distressed business could be a good acquisition, because then you can just bring that business into your infrastructure that can turn it from distress to profitable quickly. Okay. So whenever I'm talking about businesses where you buy them without using your own cash, or in a sort of no money down scenario, quite often people jump to the wrong conclusion that there is something wrong with the business. No, there's something wrong with the owner. And that is absolutely critical to remember and use as a test. Is there something wrong with the business, or is something wrong with the owner? Now, you want an owner who is motivated to sell. And what are the top motivations? Retirement, massive motivation. Interestingly, people who own businesses often think like employees, and they set employees retiring at 60, 65. They then say, I'm going to retire from my business at 60, 65, as though owning a business and being an employee of a business are the same thing. But I would say that a lot of people right now have speeded up the retirement plans because of coronavirus. and they say, well, look, the next couple of years might be tough. I don't want to be that in that environment. I don't want to be in a tough business environment for a couple of years. Stress and illness, people find their business is very stressful. Um, and maybe illness hasn't helped. It doesn't have to be their own illness. It can be an illness of someone in the family, and they just want to sell as quickly as possible. And then factors like moving abroad, and family issues motivate people to sell. And I've got to add in coronavirus. Coronavirus and the pandemic has been a huge motivator for people wanting to sell. I sometimes see some really uh, some misconceptions, which I hear people say things like, "Why would you want to buy a business that someone wants to sell?" And I can't get that. They almost think that if someone wants to sell a business, there's something wrong with it. No, that is just so wrong. Of course, sometimes there is. So, yeah, let's equate it to buying a house. Sometimes people want to sell a house because they know that the roof is about to fall in, and there's dry rot and there's wet rot, and they're about to build a motorway through the back garden. Okay, but you know something? If you're selling a house with all those problems, the buyer is going to find out anyway. Okay, but people sell perfectly good houses as well because they want to move to a different part of the country. They want to downsize, all of those things. They just want to change. So just because someone's selling a house doesn't mean that it's a bad house. Just because someone's selling a business doesn't mean it's a bad business. And sometimes people have just had enough. They just don't want to be in business any longer. Maybe they should never have been in business. Maybe business isn't really suited to them. My big encouragement for today is buy your first business as quickly as possible. And your goal should be to buy that business in the next 6 months. So write this down on your pads. I am going to buy a business in the next 6 months. Do it now while I sip my coffee. I am going to buy a business in the next 6 months. I'm going to write it nice and big, nice and bold, underline it 3 times. I am going to buy a business in the next 6 months. Buying a business in the next 6 months, if you start Monday, is completely achievable. But you got to get going quickly. You can't be a procrastinator. You got to get moving on it. Now, the business that you should buy should be one you can understand, so you don't have much to learn, and it should have solid profits as well. So we're looking for a business that has solid profits. Remember, not a business that's losing money. And you want a highly motivated seller. I will not go near a business where the seller is folding their arms and saying, "I'm not really interested in selling. Come on, make me an offer, and maybe I'll change my mind." Not interested at all. I want a business that makes solid profits because I don't want that business to be a drain on the other businesses. And I want businesses that I understand. Because I buy the same business again and again and again, it actually makes that whole understanding process very easy. You just have to understand it the first time, and then you just replicate it again and again. I would say that this is actually a big bonus of the buy and build strategy, is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel again and again. You can just buy one business, learn how to buy that type of business, and then replicate it. So you may have heard my interviews on the podcast and on my YouTube channel with people who bought several businesses in quick succession. The one that always springs to mind is Darren, who's bought 21 hairdressing salons since last May. And he just replicated the same process again and again and again. And he was on this program in May last year. And he went and replicated the same process again and again and again. He just took what I taught him and ran with it. He didn't reinvent the wheel. Very, very important. Now, that first acquisition that you make is your what we call a platform investment for your buy and build strategy. Now, if you already own a business and you're going to operate a buy and build and buy other similar businesses, complementary businesses, competitors, the same business as you in a different area of the country, then your existing business is what we would describe as your platform investment. So what we're looking for is a star deal. We're looking for a motivated seller, very, very important. We're looking for a seller with realistic expectations. There are always going to be people who think their business is worth millions when it quite clearly isn't. I mean, that's just kind of normal. Um, some people have an overinflated sense of the value of their car, of their house, of anything. So what we're looking for is someone who is sensible about valuations. It just makes the whole negotiation a lot faster. Now, when I teach you the negotiation tomorrow, you're going to see that it is a 7-day process between finding out about the business's availability to actually getting a deal, a handshake on a deal, just 7 days. So what helps those 7 days is the motivated seller and the seller who's realistic about their expectations. I'm also looking for a business with potential. I'm looking for a business that has the room for growth. So it's making solid profits. They may not be world beating profits, but it's not losing money. But I'm also looking for a business where I'm saying, under my ownership, what could it do? What potential has it got? I'm also looking for a deal where the deal structure works. And by that, I mean, I'm looking for a seller who is flexible to how we structure the payment for the business, because I don't want to put any money in at the start. And if I have to put some money in, I want to keep that amount as low as possible. Okay. So I'm looking for either not putting any money in or as low as possible. Why? Because that allows me to do more acquisitions. If I had to pay for the business in one go up front, I wouldn't be able to buy so many businesses. All right. And it's the same for everyone, isn't it? If you can make your money last longer, you can buy more businesses, which therefore have more potential and therefore more profit. And I'm also looking for a straightforward deal. Sometimes people come to me. I do this deal advisory service where people come to me and say, what do you think of this particular deal? And sometimes people come to me with, I'm thinking of one in particular, where all the customers of this company were suing the company, but it's okay because the insurance company is going to pay out. And this part of the business isn't going to be sold. And the owners live over here on the land that the business occupies. And it was just, oh my goodness, this is so complicated. We don't want any of this hassle. We just want a straightforward deal. The complicated deals have a very high chance of not happening. So I'm always looking for these 5 elements: a motivated seller, a seller with realistic expectations, a business with potential, a deal structure that works, and a straightforward deal. So that's what I'm looking for. So how do we, oh, light bulb moment. If you run a business right now, the faster you get out of it, the bigger your business will grow. The chances are, if you own a business right now, you are managing the business day to day, which in itself is actually restricting the growth. You should go and find a business to buy, combine it with your existing business to make a bigger business that allows you to put a manager in to run this now combined bigger business, and then you focus on making acquisitions. And I can tell you with great confidence that that is the way to do it. What you don't want to be doing is getting stuck in your business so that it can't operate without you, i.e., you go on holiday and everything stops. So, how do we create deal flow of these star deals? Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for plenty of these star deals. If your deal flow is good, you will find better deals, you will close deal faster, and you will do more of them. So deal flow, just to remind you, if that's a phrase that you haven't heard me say before, deal flow is this flow of sellers contacting you saying, I want to sell my business. Now, if you're only talking to one person who wants to sell their business, you've got yourself a little bit of a challenge. First of all, you haven't got any sense of comparison. How do you know if it's a good deal? You haven't got any others to compare it to. Secondly, you might become a motivated buyer. You might become so keen to do that deal, you'll say yes to anything. And that's not going to get you a great deal. And also, if you have only got one deal that you're talking to, you aren't able to play them off against others. So what we do with everyone is we are always saying, look, we need to make a decision on this quickly because we've got so many people approaching us right now. We haven't got time to procrastinate over it. So, like, if we're going to do a deal, we need to agree in the next couple of days. And that momentum, that energy of I'm doing lots of these, I've got lots going on at the moment. Look, is this going to happen or not going to happen? Is way better than months and months of meetings and phone calls and discussions. And yeah, let's just see if a deal can be done. And I can absolutely assure you that speed is going to get you deals. If you're a slow coach on this, it will just never happen because you'll lose the momentum and you'll lose deals to people who can do them quickly. So you need to be a decision maker on this. And I'm going to show you how to make those decisions with confidence as we go through the week. Now, you may feel that your deal flow could come from business brokers because business brokers have got hundreds and hundreds of businesses for sale. Surely a business broker is a very reliable source of deals. Well, let me tell you why that is not the case. First of all, they prefer working with buyers who can write a check because they want an easy life. It's far simpler for them. And experience has shown them that buyers who can write a check, the business is £500,000, here's your check for £500,000, here are your keys, the deal is done, are more likely to follow through than a buyer who wants to do a deal structure where we're going to refinance the assets and we're going to do this. Basically, there's more moving parts. So a buyer who can write a check is their very best bet. So business brokers tend to sift through the buyer pool and eliminate all the people who can't write a check. And they are typically left with people who are a little bit naive about buying a business. They've just moved house, they've downsized their house, they've moved out of London, they've got money in the bank, they want to buy a business, £500,000, there's your check. I mean, if you think about it, who wouldn't like that? However, that doesn't work for us. Even if you've got your £500,000, I don't want you to spend it. Okay. So that's the first reason for not going through a business broker. And they are professional sellers. They are professionals at selling businesses. So, at this moment in time, you probably aren't a professional buyer. So how do you feel about negotiating with a professional seller? That could actually be tough. You might not come out of that too well. And sometimes they don't even want you to meet the owner. They often say to the owner, look, we'll handle everything. That's what you're paying us for. You don't need to do anything. And sometimes if they've got a seller who's a little bit too open and honest, they don't want you to meet that person in case the seller gives anything away. So you need to understand the motivation of the seller because then you can tailor make your deal to match that motivation. So if their motivation is speed, for example, one of my clients bought a balloon printing company during lockdown in 3 weeks. So from finding out about it to owning it in just 3 weeks, he used my lawyer and he used my accountant, which helped with the speed, but he did it all in 3 weeks because he understood that the motivation was speed. So he probably, if they didn't need to sell in 3 weeks and they had to sell because they were leasing out the warehouse to someone else and they had to get the business out of the warehouse, but if they didn't have that time pressure of 3 weeks, then and they could have waited, then they would have got more money for their business. My client, Nick, he was able to move quickly because he knew exactly what to do. He followed my process, used my deal team, and he never would have understood that motivation of speed if there'd been a broker involved. And also, of course, if you're talking to a broker, you're now in a competitive environment. That broker's been advertising the business for sale. There'll be other people who are talking to the broker. And believe me, the broker will make it very clear to you that there are other people talking to him about the business. So we need to talk to owners who want to sell. I'm just taking you through the logic of this. We need to talk to owners who want to sell but haven't yet put their business on the market. So they're not yet advertising it with a broker. Okay, because that's how people think, I'm going to sell my business. It's like when you want to sell your house, right? Do you think, well, put it with an estate agent? Sell my business, put it with a business broker. So we need to talk to owners before they put their business on the market with a broker. So we need to get in there early. So if we get in there early, we get the best deal, we get the best price, and we get the fastest deal as well. As soon as it goes to a broker, you're not going to get the best deal. You're not going to get the best deal. So let me show you 7 places to find deals. The first is administrators. Administrators we'll cover later in the week, I think on Thursday, in a bit more detail. But administrators it's a UK phrase, and it is a place where businesses that are in trouble go to because they have a legal responsibility to do so. And the administrator effectively runs the business while the business is being sold. And they want to sell the business as quickly as possible. And you sell the business they sell the business to you without the liabilities. So you don't have to worry about any of the liabilities. All they're doing is selling you the good stuff, the stuff that you want. We talk more about this later in the week, so I won't go into detail about it now. Now, there are plenty of websites with thousands of businesses for sale on. They're great for research, but you'll find that those listings are all lead back to business brokers. It's a place that business brokers put their businesses for sale in order to get inquiries. So we said we're not going to buy from a broker. Well, the majority of businesses listed on websites are actually with brokers. And then there's networking online these days and offline. Just talking to people and telling them that you're interested in buying a business is a great way of just getting the word out there. Now, it can be slow going, but you can hit it lucky really, really quickly. I did a wonderful deal, if I do say so myself, a few years ago. It was worth a very strong 7-figure sum to me, actually, just from going to a dinner that I didn't really want to go to, but going to a dinner and chatting to someone before the dinner. So you never know where these deals are going to come from. Facebook, let me tell you where on Facebook you find deals. You find them in Facebook groups for owners of that particular type of business. And every type of business, there are owners who congregate to chat, to support each other, and so forth. And quite often these groups on Sundays allow people to advertise in the group. Usually these groups are advert free during the week. Then on Sundays, people advertise. And that's when people say, anyone want to buy my business? And I'm a member of 2 Facebook groups for people in my sector, owners in my sector. And as soon as someone says, oh, I've had enough, does anyone know how I sell my business? My colleague is straight onto that person, messaging them privately, saying, can we talk? And we've actually had some really good deals out of Facebook groups. LinkedIn, pretty much the same as Facebook, really. Probably more business owners on LinkedIn than there are Facebook. Asset valuers. This is an interesting one. What's an asset valuer? Well, when an administrator is going to sell the assets, they need to get the assets valued. They don't value the assets themselves. They get an asset valuer to value the assets. And the asset valuer, therefore, hears about this administration before anyone else. So if you've got a relationship with an asset valuer and they know that you're interested in, I don't know, IT companies, whenever they get the assets of an IT company, they say, look, are you interested? And I'll put you in touch with the administrator. And it's a brownie point for us because administrators want to sell businesses. They don't want to hang on to them. They want to sell them as quickly as possible. So you're kind of all scratching each other's backs here. And then accountants. Typically, when someone wants to sell their business, the first place they go to is their accountant to say, what do you think the business is worth? How do we go about selling this business? So your first port of call should be your own accountant and say, look, I'm interested in buying this type of business, or I'm interested in buying any business. I'm not massively bothered what sector it's in. I just need to understand it. Let me know if any of your other clients are ever interested in selling. So when you do all these things at the same time, this starts to create deal flow. However, I haven't told you the best way of generating inbound leads. The best way is to use letters. Now, every single one of you has had a copy of one of the letters that I use. I actually have 13 letters, but every single one of you has a copy of one of those letters. Now, there'll always be someone who says, I never got it, I never received it. Remember at the beginning, I said, email Maria, hello@thedealmakersacademy.com. She'll be able to help you with that, okay? So how do we use letters to source deals? Well, let me take you through the simplest process in the world. And I'm deliberately simplifying it because I want you to realize how straightforward this is. You need a list of companies to write to. So you've got to send your letter to someone, right? So you need names and addresses. That's the first thing. We're then going to get the letter ready to send to those names and addresses. And then we're going to send them. There you go. There is your 3 steps. And then number 4, wait for the responses. And you think, Jonathan, hang on. You're making this too simple, too Janet and John. But it really is. You need a list of companies to write to. You personalize the letter so that it is appropriate to the companies that you're. Not each letter is personalized. It's just personalized to, if it's to IT companies, you make sure that the letter has some reference to IT companies in it, obviously. You then send the letter out, and then you wait for people to phone you and email you. So let's go into this in a little bit more detail. Where do you get those names and addresses from? You get them from someone called a data broker. A data broker is someone whose business is to sell you names and addresses. Simple as that. Technically, they're renting them to you, but don't get caught up in the detail of that. So that's where we get our data from. You would be buying, I would strongly suggest, 1,000 names to start off with. 1,000 names to start off with. In the UK, CreditSafe, DueDeal, databroker.com, just go to Google and type in data broker in Canada, data broker in Australia, or wherever you are. And that's where you'll find all the data brokers. Very simple. Oh, can I just answer a question that I know I'm going to get asked later, so I'll answer it now. People say, how much does it cost? Well, a data broker is like any other business. They charge different amounts. They're not all the same. There's not one standard price. So you need to go to that data broker and ask. Sometimes they have on their website prices, which is a good guideline. Remember that it's all negotiable. It is always negotiable. I have an amazing data broker, and I only share that particular contact with people that I work with going forward because that was the agreement with the data broker. The more letters you send, the more contacts you are going to have. So I then always get asked, what is the percentage response rate? So if I send out 1,000 letters, how many will I get? The answer is, I don't know, because I don't know how many of those 1,000 business owners, the day your letter arrives on their mat, will pick it up, read it, and go, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give this guy a call. So I don't know how many people are going to be thinking that. And then people say, Jonathan, guess. I can't. It all depends upon the sector. It all depends upon what's happening in that sector. It all depends whether people are feeling optimistic and positive about the future in that sector. It all depends. It all depends. But you don't know until you try. I would be sending at least 250 to expect a response. Sometimes people say, I sent out some letters, Jonathan. No one called me. How many letters did you send? 25. Oh. So look what we're trying to do here. if we send out 25 letters, we're hoping that out of those 25 people, several of them will be wanting to sell that morning. You know what? Is that not a bit of a big expectation? Let me give you an analogy. I love this analogy. The analogy is this. Let's say we all get together and we're going to open a pizza shop. We open our pizza shop. We've got our shiny new pizza oven. We're ready to go. We just need some customers now. So we say, you know what? Why don't we do what Domino's do? And we put leaflets through people's letterboxes. So we get some leaflets printed up, and we get our teenage children to go up and down the streets putting leaflets in people's letterboxes. And we sit there and we wait for people to phone up and order pizzas. And no one phones. And we sit down for a crisis meeting and we say, well, what went wrong? We did what Domino's do. Why did no one phone? How many leaflets do we put through people's doors? 25. Okay, so we were betting that the day that leaflet arrives, out of those 25 people, some would want to order a pizza, because that leaflet probably doesn't have a huge lifespan. It's only around for a day or so. It's only a few people who are going to save it. So we didn't put enough leaflets through doors. How many houses in the immediate area here? 5,000. Okay, do you think we should put 5,000 leaflets through doors? Yes, we do. Okay, let's put 5,000 leaflets through doors. It's a bit more effort, takes a bit more time, but then the phone starts ringing. So when people don't get much of a response, it's typically because they haven't put out enough letters. Okay. So if you want to do lots of deals, put out lots of letters and do it consistently. You don't just do it once. The reason I've got 13 letters is because I want to send the same people a letter month after month, but I'm not going to send them the same letter. I'm going to send them different variations on the theme. Now, when you're sending out lots of letters, you can use a mailing house. A mailing house, and that's the correct phrase, they will send out large quantities. They probably would send out 1,000 letters for you. It may not be massively economical, but if you're sending out 1,000 letters every month, it becomes a little bit more interesting for them. But they'll do everything for you. They'll buy the stamps, the envelopes, they'll print the letters, they'll put the letters in the envelopes, send it all out, have to think about it. So do I sit at home putting letters in envelopes? No, I don't. Have I sat at home putting letters in envelopes? Yes, I have. Absolutely. Yeah, if we're going to send out 100, you just put the letters in the envelopes. You're going to send out 5,000, you get someone else to do it for you. And this is all leveraging other people's skills, experience, and time rather than having to do it all yourself. We're now going to receive responses by phone and email. That's pretty straightforward. On your phone, you might want to set up a Circle Loop app. Now, what is Circle Loop? You can download the app onto your smartphone. A Circle Loop is a little bit like phoning someone through Messenger or phoning someone through Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. So the app rings. I don't know if anyone's ever phoned you or you've ever phoned anyone on WhatsApp. The app rings, the phone doesn't ring, the app rings. And it's exactly the same with this. So you can give people your Circle Loop phone number. And when the Circle Loop app rings on your phone, you know that it is someone who is calling you from your letters. So it's a great way of answering the phone in a different way. Now, here's the thing. If you can't decide about a sector, send letters to more than one. So let's say you've narrowed it down to 3, but you don't know which one to go for. Send out 250 letters to each of those 3 sectors, and then speak to owners. And after you've spoken to a few owners in that type of business, a few owners in that type of business, you can start to feel where the opportunity is. Let's say you can't narrow it down to 3. You go to your data broker and say, I want 1,000 SMEs from my town. 1,000 SMEs from my town. And then you send out 1,000 letters to assorted businesses. And let's see who phones you. You might have never thought you want to be in the pizza shop business, but after you've spoken to 3 pizza shop owners, you think, well, actually, these margins are really good. And I can get some good deals, and they're motivated to sell, and I can do a deal quickly. Hey, I could be a regional pizza company, and I never thought I'd have any interest in pizza apart from eating it. So you just don't know. You don't know. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier the guy in commercial cleaning. He did this. He sent out 1,000 letters. And he's talking to 3 commercial cleaning companies, and he's thinking, well, if I put them all together, this could be. And of course, they don't know that he's speaking to the other 2. If I bought all 3, put them all together, I've suddenly got a pretty major commercial cleaning company in my town. You know, so don't get too caught up over sector. You're not choosing for life. We're just choosing for cash flow. We're just choosing a business that can make us some money. So let me give you the business buying process overview, which would be a nice framework for the rest of the week. So deciding on the business sector, we've talked about quite a lot today. Buying the data, we've talked about that. Sending out some letters, getting the responses. Now, that's really what we've been doing today, 1 to 4. And then tomorrow, we talk about what we're going to say on the phone when they phone us. We're going to talk about the decision-making information that we need to receive. We're going to talk tomorrow about that second meeting by Zoom or face-to-face, that second meeting. We're going to talk about making a deal tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we'll talk about signing the heads of terms, getting the legal process started, due diligence, negotiating the price quite possibly, completing the deal, taking over the business, and then rinse and repeat and doing it all over again. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to negotiate the deal and agree a price and a value. Very, very important. How do we decide what the business is worth? How do we agree a price? How do we negotiate the deal? You do not want to miss this. It's at 10 a.m. London time tomorrow, but please log on at 10 to 10 so that we can have a chat before we get started. Okay, so let's move to some questions about what we've been talking about today. If you ask me a question about something that I know I'm going to cover later in the week, then I'll just bypass it because we'll be covering it later in the week. And there's no point talking about something that I'm going to be training you on later in the week. Now, if you weren't online earlier on when I said this, tonight at 9 o'clock, I have a special video going live on YouTube. It's called a YouTube premiere, which means that we all watch it at the same time. And we have people from all around the world watch this. And I can talk to you on the chat box next to the video. So it's quite an exciting experience. And it's a video about some of my recent acquisitions. You're going to see behind the scenes. So I'd love you to watch it with me tonight if you can. And then we can talk about it for a few minutes tomorrow as well. So if you go to YouTube, type in my name, Jonathan J, you'll find the channel. What you have to do is subscribe and tap the notifications bell, and then you'll get a notification about the video this evening. Okay, so if you could go and do that, why don't you go and do that now, and then you know it's done, and then I'll see you on YouTube at 9 o'clock this evening. Great. So let's answer some questions here. Zach says, I'm going to buy one in the next 2 months if all goes according to plan. Yeah, that's great, Zach. That's really good. But you need to get started on Monday. Okay. I've answered that one there already. Kevin says, what is your approach to building deal flow through LinkedIn groups? Well, just making it known in that LinkedIn group that you're interested in buying a business in that sector. So if it's a LinkedIn group of, I don't know, dental practice owners, then you're looking for people who say things like, goodness me, I think I'm going to retire this year. I think I've had enough. I'm going to move my retirement plans early. They're the people that you send messages to. Okay. Kurt says, your forms appear to be geared for the UK. Yes, that's true. How do I get the forms orientated to the US? Which one in particular, Kurt? Tell me which one in particular you're talking about. Hi, Michael. Michael says, is the letter customized to the person or a generic letter like the pizza leaflets example? Yeah, so that's a good question, Michael. Yeah, if we're sending out 1,000 letters to 1,000 business owners, we're not doing 1,000 versions of the letter. We're doing one version of the letter that suits the sector, not that particular owner. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. Who's going to sit down and effectively write 1,000 different letters? We're not going to do that. Timothy says, is there something similar to administrators in the United States? Well, yes, it's your Chapter 11, Chapter 12, whoever deals with that. Hi, Prinny. Great content for the first day. Thank you. Oh, by the way, tell me that we're on the right track here. Tell me if I'm going too fast. Tell me if I'm going too slow. Tell me if the pace is just right. Tell me, just give me some feedback here. Always interesting to know. Mark says, will I be willing to share the other letters 2 to 13? No, as part of this program, you get the one letter that you've already been sent, Mark. Kevin says, Kevin Harvey says, do we email or post out the letters? You post them. I don't mention email at all. You post them. You've got to post them. Don't try and shortcut by emailing. I want it to go private and confidential to the owner. I only want the owner opening it. I don't want the email going into a office email address where someone just deletes it or it goes into junk mail. Okay. Raza says, you mentioned light bulb number 1. You make money when you buy the business. An example of this, please. Oh, I thought I had. Let me give it to you again. I'll give you an example from before Christmas. So I bought 2 businesses in the same week, one on Thursday, one on Friday. And we used the money in the business to acquire business 1 on the Thursday, and there was some money left over. And I used the money left over to acquire business 2 on the Friday. Now, I'll cover this in more detail on Wednesday, because I realized that was a very fast explanation of something that's kind of like, whoa, hang on, how did that work? Use the money in the business to buy the business. So let's talk about that on Wednesday when I do the 8 ways to buy a business without using your own cash. Okay. Zach Hurst says, how many follow-up letters would you send to your target market if you have no response with your first letter? You never stop, because someone who doesn't want to sell today may want to sell next month. Someone who doesn't want to sell next month may want to sell the month after. Uniki says, how do you get someone who knows about the business? Do you pay them? Well, I guess at some point you have to, if they're kind of helping you and working for you, you can't expect them to work for free. But you would be surprised how many people are very generous with their experience if they know that they're helping someone get started. Oh, pacing content is great, says Paddy. Great, that's great. Thank you very much indeed. Abbas says, I'm still confused and lost at which sector and which business to buy. Abbas, we're 90 minutes into the program. I wouldn't expect you to have an answer right now. Don't worry, you've got plenty of time. Alvin says, would you recommend the letters to be on a company letterhead? 2 situations. If you're writing as yourself, no, you don't need a company letterhead. It's just you writing as an individual. However, if you already have a reputation in the sector and people know you, then you can leverage that reputation, in which case it would be on your company letterhead. Hi, Stephen Thompson says, I'm looking at the IT sector in Manchester. When I've investigated some businesses, they seem to be already part of a holding company. Any suggestions? I don't want to buy too small a business, which I have to manage myself. I don't think their company structure really makes any difference to, what you just said there, Stephen. I don't see what the issue is. I don't think there is no issue. There is no issue there, Stephen. It's not a problem at all. Roland says, good pace, Jonathan. 7 pages of notes already. Well done, Roland. Nice one. Patience is asking me about how you get the videos. I did cover that at the start, Patience. You'll get today's video on a YouTube playlist later on today. Dave Robertson says, if you don't have a business, would you recommend setting up a business to acquire a business? Well, I think you mean setting up a company to acquire a business. A company and a business are 2 different things. I will cover that for you later in the week. Okay, so the things that I'm going to be covering later in the week, I'm not going to answer now because I'm covering it later in the week. So please ask me questions about what we've been talking about today, and then we can keep the subject relevant. Can you advise further about the Circle Loop app? Where and how do I find this? Just go to the App Store. Yep, just on your phone. Just where you got all your other apps, I guess. It's very straightforward. Do you need to be a professional, says Andy, Do you need to be a professional to buy a professional firm, for example, an accountancy firm? Now, that's a good question. Let me just think. The answer is no, I'm hesitating here because I'm trying to think, did you used to, but you don't now? I don't know that specific sector answer to that question. Why don't you just ask your accountant or Google it? Do you need to be an accountant to buy an accountancy firm? That will tell you your answer. John Weatherly says, how granular can you be with types of data from your data broker? Okay, let me give you a word of caution. Do not try and eliminate too many people out of your data because you'll end up with nothing. You say, okay, because the whole point of this is that you want volume. You want to get out a large volume, okay? Stephen says, okay, send letters regardless. Just the owner is then more difficult to find. Why is the owner difficult to find, Stephen? The owner is very easy to find. You just address it to the owner, private and confidential. Princess says, when would you ever buy from a broker? Look, I can see what's happening already. I've given you the process. You're trying to break the process, Prinny. You're trying to break the process. Don't break the process. Just avoid brokers, please, until you've got more experience. Avoid brokers till you've got more experience. Colin Downton says, great content and great pace. Really looking forward to the rest of the week. No, you don't, as I have an accountancy firm. Thank you, Colin. Yeah, I couldn't remember. If you don't need to be an accountant to be an owner of an accountancy firm. You used to have to be a lawyer to be a owner of a lawyer firm. I think there's still, you can have non-lawyers as owners now. There's a name for that. I can't remember what the name is. Richard says, is an ideal revenue size for your first purchase more than 500,000 or less than 3 million? I don't know where you got those numbers from. I think you just plucked them out of the air, but I know where you're going with this. No, what I'd be looking for, instead of focusing on the turnover of the business, focus on the profitability of the business. You don't want a business that makes £10,000 profit unless you know that as soon as you bought that business, by making it part of your existing business, that £10,000 profit would be £100,000 profit overnight. So it kind of all depends. Heidel says, would advise to contact motivated sellers who advertise business on Marketplace on Facebook, where there is a possibility that it would be listed with a broker. Well, I guess you don't know till you try. I'm just saying to you that you are not going to get the best deal if you go to a business broker. You are not. Now, I guess there's always 10% of people on the training who are going, oh, well, I'll do whatever I want, Jonathan. Well, you can, but you're going to waste several months reaching the conclusion that I've already told you you're going to reach. So Roland, yeah, I've answered that question. ABS. Yes, Emil, thank you. A non-lawyer owned business, ABS. Yeah, that was what I was trying to remember. Yeah, thanks very much. Subham says, can someone buy a business from administrators from different countries? Yep, of course. No problem. Just like you can buy a house in another country, you can buy a business in another country. AD says, does the business need to be within a certain traveling distance? Well, that's entirely up to you, really, isn't it? It certainly makes sense to buy a business that you can drive over to. Rather than a business that's 1,000 miles away that you have to get a plane to. I mean, it kind of just makes sense, right? You know, if you're going to buy a buy-to-let property, you can buy a buy-to-let property 1,000 miles away. But what happens if the boiler breaks down and you've got some sort of disaster that the tenants need to see you about urgently? You've got to get on a plane. Yeah, it's easier kind of if it's in your own town or But just apply common sense to that, really. Michael says, I've been dealing with brokers for the past 2 months and they are a pain. I agree with you 200%. Yep, Michael, absolutely. Yeah, good point. Thank you. Colin, that's very funny. Colin Downton, that's very funny. Okay, Riz, that's interesting about accountancy practices. Thank you very much. All right, so let's have a look here. David Allison says, can we buy different sector businesses within the same company group, or does this affect SIC codes? Everyone really gets their knickers in a twist about SIC codes. You don't even worry about it, David. It's so not a big deal. The majority of companies at Companies House have the wrong SIC code. It really doesn't make any better. Emil says, can we buy online businesses? You can buy any online, offline, makes no difference. Most businesses have an online element, don't they? Dale says, can you briefly describe a data broker again, as I missed that bit? You can't go to the loo during these sessions. You've got to stay in front of your laptop. Yeah, a data broker is just someone who brokers data. So you want 1,000 dentists? Yes, Mr. J, we'll have 1,000 dentists over to you this afternoon. That's all it is. Very, very simple. Very, very straightforward. Where do I find asset valuers and administrators? Google. There you go, Google. Richard says, probably a question for later in the week. Okay, but is there an upper limit on the size of business we can look at due to funding constraints? No, there's no upper limit. It's really limited by what you want to do and your level of ambition. Good question, actually. Brian says, I've already had an initial meeting with my biggest competition. They're wanting to sell as a whole via by selling the company. It is a very large workshop included. Would I just value the property and then value the business of the profit and negotiate from there? Look, Brian, we're doing this later in the week, okay? So presumably you don't need to have an answer sort of today. So let's just do it later in the week, all right? Hi, Emil says, great content and pace. I already have a business. When I buy another business to buy and build, do I change the name of the business so both businesses have the same name? Right. We do that later in the week, Emil, so hold that for later in the week. Raza says, I'm super excited about the content. I love the pace. It's great to learn from you. Thank you. Looking forward to these sessions. Great. Thank you very much, Raza. Thank you. Thanks for being a client. Kevin says, what's the equivalent of asset valuers in the United States? I don't know, Kevin, because obviously I can't know every country and what every country does. But I would suggest that 5 minutes on Google and you'd find out pretty quickly. Okay, it would be really easy to find because they have websites. Everyone's got a website these days. Guy, we're doing how to finance an acquisition on Wednesday, so I'll cover that on Wednesday. Prinny, we do company structure on Wednesday as well, so we'll do that on Wednesday. Uniki says, when I contact a data broker for 1,000 SMEs in an area, do I specify the industry I want? Well, if you're doing what we talked about earlier, which is just 1,000 businesses of all different types of businesses, well, no, clearly you don't specify the industry because the whole point is that it's a cross section. But if you want dentists, then yes, you tell them you want dentists. So the way to answer that question yourself is, what do I want? And then you tell them what you want. Pace is spot on, says Jahinga. Thank you very much. That's good. Sometimes I go too fast, sometimes too slow. Gabrielle, just like I said, just contact the office for that. Raza says, is heads of terms same as a letter of intent? Yeah, in some countries they call it letter of intent. Yes, it is. So William says, I'm going slightly too fast, difficult to take notes. You get the recordings, remember, William, so you can always go back over it again. So William says, I'm going too fast. John Weatherby says, I more speed, says I'm doing too slowly. There you go. Just goes to show you can't please anyone all the time. Great content so far. All good, says Guy. Fantastic. Let's have a look. I'm just scrolling down the questions here. I don't want to repeat the answers. So some questions are very, very similar. Gabrielle, just contact the office, hello@thedealmakersacademy.com, and Maria will be able to help you with that. Chris says, thank you for the insight. What is the sweet spot in terms of profit for a favorable company to buy and build? Well, it all depends. So some of the ones that that I'm buying at the moment are some of them are like heading to like £200,000 profit. Some of them, the profit's like 10% of that. But you see, it doesn't really bother me too much because I'm consolidating into a group. So it kind of if they all go into the pot, it all contributes. So it kind of all depends upon the strategy that you adopt, Chris. John says, great and absorbing course. Thank you. And can I just say something? Today, I always feel like we're kind of just doing the groundwork here. Tomorrow, it gets really exciting Today, I feel like this is the stuff we've got to do. It's not the most thrilling content, to be honest, in the world. But tomorrow, we get onto the really exciting stuff, the negotiation, the putting the deal together. And then we really hit the ground running on Wednesday with the ways to buy the business without cash. We're covering administrators Subham later in the week. Raheem says, I want to disagree with people saying you're going too fast. Perfect pace for me. I think you've just answered that. Perfect pace for me. Six. Everyone is different. Gabriel says, are you selling any company? No. Hi, Tom Bundy says, I know it would be stronger to bolt on a business to my existing one, but I don't know anything that could be. Sorry, Tom, I'm not following what the question is asking me there. Hi, Richard says, I've had some discussions with some funders in the past, and they've indicated they would like to see some skin in the game, i.e. some personal contribution towards the purchase. Are there funding sources which don't take this attitude? Well, let's save that, please, for Wednesday when I talk. It's a good question, Richard. I like your question. But let's save that for Wednesday because I think that's going to change the way you would ask me that. Question. Let's have a little look what we've got here. Prinny says, when assessing future opportunity in a business, do you need to be super innovative? No. No, I don't. I just say, this is all I say. It's okay. If the business is doing this right now, what could the business do with superior management? What could the business do in the future? And that is how I assess the capability of the business. If this is what the business charges customers and it's got X number of customers, if we had 3X of customers charging the same amount, what could the business do? And therefore, what would the profitability be? So it's actually almost embarrassingly simple maths. Kevin Fox says, is 3X the average multiple to apply to small businesses across the board, or is it industry by industry? It's not even industry by industry, it's business by business. So I'm buying some businesses where I'm paying an amount equivalent to, get this, a quarter of a year's profit. Yep, a quarter of a year's profit. Why would someone sell their business for a quarter of a year's profit? Well, quite simply, for all the reasons I gave you earlier. Illness, stress, retirement, and they just want to get out. So it depends. The better you negotiate, the lower the amount you pay. Alvin, we're talking about deal team later in the week. Okay. I'm just looking through the questions here. Some great questions today. Dave, we're talking about that sort of rebranding later in the week. I don't want to cover things that I'm going to be covering later in the week. Otherwise, there's no point. I can't answer a question in 30 seconds and give it the same depth if I was talking about it for sort of 10 minutes later in the week. Yeah, Tom, we talk about valuation tomorrow. Kevin says, so even though we don't get all 13 letter templates in the course, will we be able to at least walk away with a framework to follow to construct our own letters? You've already got one, Kevin. We've already sent you one. We've already sent you one. So we've already got one. You've got what you need to get going, Kevin. You've already got that. If you haven't received it, just contact Maria, hello@thedealmakersacademy.com. Everyone has sent it. It's probably in your emails, in your emails somewhere. Andy says, apart from IT, any other sector to avoid? Why do you think you should avoid IT? IT is a great sector. I've got loads of clients buying in IT. Why would you want to avoid information technology? Why would you want to do that? Any other sectors to avoid? Well, it's really applying common sense and saying, is this a dead sector? I mean, it doesn't take much to work out whether it's a dead sector or not. Spend some time on the internet doing a bit of research. It's really easy to work out whether a sector is on the up, whether a sector is going down the pan. Mustafa says, will you be helping us buying our first business? I am this week. That's exactly what I'm doing this week. Yeah, absolutely. Great, Kevin. Good to have you here. Paddy says, if you have business cards, what would you call yourself in a professional capacity? I don't have business cards, actually, Paddy. I don't really feel that you need a business card, because that doesn't make any difference to your ability to buy a business. I can assure you for that. Um, Chris D says, is there any way to best position ourselves with the initial contact letter? Okay, let me just read that again. Is there a way to better position ourselves with the initial contact letter for a particular sector? For example, this letter here looks wonderful for softer companies. Okay, I hadn't heard that phrase before, like early childhood care, but how best to talk to an insurance or accounting target? Yeah, that's what I mean about personalizing the letter to your sector, just adapting the language to suit the sector. Yeah. Although to be fair, Chris, that letter is being used by people all around the world in all different sectors very successfully. So don't try and fix what isn't broken. Okay. Um, Hi, Marie Davis. Yeah, not yet, Marie. We haven't done the course yet. Maria at the office can help you with that after the course, Marie. Let's do the course first. Emil says, after doing build and buy and build, when can we apply the larger multiple? Well, the larger multiple applies when you sell it. What is considered a large business? It depends who you're selling to. So if you're selling to private equity, you really need a minimum of £2 million of profit per annum. That's what you really need if you're selling to private equity. If you're selling to trade, it can be any amount, and every sector has its sort of its point where a business becomes big enough to sell to a bigger group. So it kind of depends upon which businesses we're really talking about here. Um, Guy says, with buy and build, can I buy small businesses in unrelated sectors to put them into a large business? It doesn't really make sense, because if you think about it, I've got a dentist here and I've got a supermarket, not a supermarket, but a fruit and veg shop over here. I've got a dentist, I've got a fruit and veg shop, and an IT company. That doesn't really make any sense. There's no synergies there. There's no economies of scale there. Your economies of scale and your synergies come from buying businesses that are similar or have some sort of connection, Guy. Okay. Yeah, I've answered that. Oh, I've answered that. Richard says, is there an ideal size for your first purchase? Oh, I answered that earlier on, didn't I? Yeah, it's more about the profitability than the turnover of the business. Ola, no, I wouldn't recommend that, actually, Ola. Dale says, would advise, oh, I've answered that. I think some of these questions are popping through twice, actually. Tom Bundy says, it's always good to know, I find, to start with the end and work backwards. That's a really good plan, actually. How do we know what businesses sell for when we come to sell? Well, that Google knows everything. So just go to Google and look at the trade press for that sector, because they always announce mergers and acquisitions. They always are talking about which business. That's part. I mean, I subscribe to a couple of online magazines in my sector, and I look every couple of days and I see every single deal that's being done, and quite often there are rumors in the market about what that business has been sold for. So that is where you look. Okay. Rahim says, why would you choose to send letters? Would it not be easier and cheaper to do an email drip campaign? You can do that if you want, Rahim, but already you've broken the process. Don't break my process, Rahim. You want a letter that lands on someone's desk, with marked private and confidential, that is opened and read. You don't want to be an email in with hundreds of other. I mean, I get hundreds of emails a day. You do not want to be lost amongst all those other emails. Prini says, great content for the first day. My question is, do we set up a company name before we start buying a business so the risk is not on our personal name? We cover that later in the week, Prini. We do all that later in the week. Okay, I'm starting to get, I feel a sense of repetition here, and things that we're going to be covering later in the week. Chris says, Mr. J, You can call me Jonathan. How do you think about specialized retail? Jewelry, for example. Is retail too fraught with complexities and lower profits? Well, you just have to look at your own high street and see half the shops are closed. That will give you a pretty good idea about retail. So yeah, again, it's just about applying, common sense to what's happening wherever you are. Um, Mustafa says, this is Mustafa said, "Will I help you buy a business?" And I said, "That's what I'm doing this week." Mustafa says, "I meant, will you be helping us put together a deal team together and then apply for numerous businesses?" Well, we talk about deal teams on Friday, Mustafa. Yep, we do that. Um, but you bought a 5-day course, and I'm with you for the next 5 days, okay? And then you've got to do it yourself. I hope that answers your question. Great. Well, I think we're kind of actually run out of time anyway, and I'm starting to feel like I've answered all the questions that are relevant to today. If I haven't answered your question yet, I will later in the week, because the content later in the week will be relevant to relevant to your question. I hope you've had a great day today. I'd like to see you at 9 o'clock tonight on YouTube, because I've got a brand new video being released, behind the scenes, day in the life of a business buyer. Be there at 9 o'clock tonight, but you need to go over to Jonathan J YouTube channel and click the subscribe button and tap the notifications bell, and then I will see you live on the video this evening, released at 9 o'clock. Looking forward to it, guys. I hope you've had a great day. I'll see you at 9 o'clock tonight, and I will also see you at 10 to 10 tomorrow. And tomorrow we talk about putting a deal together, negotiating a price. I love that section. So let's see you tomorrow, and I'll see you at 9 o'clock tonight on YouTube. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine wherever you are, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.